Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing my, I don't know what you want to call it, thirdly year statistical analysis of my reading. That's a terrible title. Basically every 4 months I am reviewing my reading in terms of the goals that I set myself at the start of the year, just general statistical information. So this is the second one of these. I will link the first one down below in case you haven't seen it and you're interested. All these stats are going to be from April to August inclusive. For most of them I am only reporting on those 4 months, but I will give a general overview of the whole year as well. And then my next quarter, at third, is going to be the final year stats where I go over everything. I might do a separate one just for the last 4 months as well. I haven't quite decided yet. Let me know if you have a preference down below. That's always good to know. But yeah, I'll just start going through the information. This is going to be pretty informal. I've got charts and some things to talk about, so let's get started. The first statistic is how many books have I read? I have read 132 books at this point, and I've read 74 books in between April and August. So this is literally insane. This is way more books than I thought I would read this year. Last year I think I read about 108 or 118 in total, something like that. I'm hoping to maybe hit 200 by the end of the year, and I seem to be increasing in the number that I'm reading each month, which is fantastic. However, this is going to be a busy time for me because I am starting my PhD, so I don't know how that's going to affect my reading. Obviously it's going to have an impact. But yeah, I'm really pleased with how it's going so far. So the first thing I have to show you is this graph of the books and the ratings I've given by month. So I read 16 books in May, 18 in June, 17 in July and 23 in August. I gave an average rating of 3.59 in May, 3.68 in June, 3.03 in July and 3.54 in August. So June was my best one, July was my worst, but very little difference between them in general. Next I'm going to talk about the arcs that I've read. So in total I've read 29 arcs, and I'm given a rating of 3.41 for those arcs. So one of my goals was to be more selective about arcs, which I feel like I am doing. I'm just being a bit unlucky with them. I have enjoyed a lot more of the arcs this year, I think, than last year. It's just I've had some bad ones, which I think is bringing the average down. But it does feel like I'm being more selective, and I am more excited about the arcs I'm picking, which is what I wanted from that goal. In the last 4 months specifically, I've read 18 arcs and I gave them a 3.28 average rating. So next we have my overall number of books by rating, so my number of 1-star reads, 1.5-star reads, etc. This I've only done for the last 4 months, so this is just the last 4 months, and it looks something like this. So as you can see, my most common rating is 4 stars by a long shot, and I've given 24 books 4 stars, which is absolutely incredible. Perhaps even more surprisingly, I have 9 4.5-star reads and 6 5-star reads, which is fantastic because while a lot of those are non-fiction or graphic novels, my total number of 5-star reads last year was 2, I believe, overall. So I've already surpassed it by quite a lot, and at least 2 of those books were fiction books, which is fantastic. So I'm definitely reading a lot of stuff that I am enjoying, which is the goal. Next we have the number and ratings of books by genre, so the number of thrillers I've read and the average ratings that I gave them, etc, etc. So for this one, as you can see, the one that I read the most is by far thriller. I've read 21 thrillers in the last 4 months and I gave them an average of 3.69, which is above 3 and closer to 4, so I'm happy about that. It's still not great, but at least it is improving. My highest rating is actually contemporary, which is 3.7, but I only read 14 contemporary books, so as per usual I'm more selective about the contemporary books I read, so I think that it's more likely that I will rate them higher because of that. The worst is fantasy, but that is an unfair statistic. So I've read 14 fantasy books and I have an average rating of 2.03, which sounds awful, but then you consider the fact most of those fantasy books were either rereads from my childhood or Harry Potter rereads, so I'm not rating my rereads in general. So it's not actually as bad as it looks. That's just an artifact of how I'm working out the statistics. So those are kind of all the graphs and things, and now I'm going to talk about my general goals for the year. So the first major goal I have for this year is there are 20 books that were released in 2018 that I didn't read in 2018 but I wanted to read in 2019. So the last check-in I'd read 3 of them. This check-in I've read 10 of them, so I've read 7 within the last 4 months. Means I have 10 left, which is maybe a bit ambitious for the last 4 months of the year. However, I'm hoping I can get them done, and quite a lot of the ones I have left are kind of darker, more wintry reads, so it should go well with the mood reading, hopefully. I will link that video down below in case you haven't seen it and you're curious what those 20 books were. I'm also going to do a proper review at the end of the year when I've hopefully read all 20, where I tell you generally what I thought of the 20, what my ratings were. So far it feels like I'm rating them pretty high, which is good and makes sense because these are books that I'm very excited to read, but there have been a couple of disappointing ones on there, but nothing too bad that I can think of. The next goal I discussed last time was that there were a list of thrillers that I wanted to read before the end of the year. I have since abandoned this goal because I've only read about 1 of them, and to be honest, I'm still very excited to read the other ones that I put on this list, but just the way that my reading is working with readathons and the Snakes and Ladders TBR, I don't think that I'm going to be able to prioritise these thrillers, so it just made more sense for me to abandon that list and just focus on reading thrillers that I want to read in the moment, because that should lead to me rating them higher anyway, because they're the books that I want to read. The next goal I had was that there are 10 authors that I want to read in 2019. These are authors where I have multiple books by them on my TBR lists, but I haven't read any books by them. Again, I will link that video down below in case you haven't seen it and you're curious. So far I've read 5 of them, which is actually... it's not too bad, but I only read 2 of them in the last 4 months, and they were right at the start of April. So I have been neglecting this goal, and I do need to crack on with it, as they say. So hopefully I can read the other 5 authors by the end of the year, and again I'll be doing another review video when I've done that goal, hopefully. The authors I have left to read are Jane Corey, Lucy Whitehouse, Sean David Hutchinson, Howard Linsky, and Neil Gaiman. So with Neil Gaiman, I'm waiting for an audiobook of Good Omens from my library. Yes, I am that person. I want to read Good Omens just because of the TV show now. And then Lucy Whitehouse I should be reading in September. So then that just leaves the 3 of them for me to read before the end of the year, with any luck. The next goal I wanted to reach was to read 20 non-King horror books, so non-Stephen King horror books. I think I've hit this. I haven't actually worked out this goal because I stopped caring about it as much because it turned out to be really easy, so it doesn't feel like I'm trying to achieve that goal just because it's kind of happening naturally. But I've read quite a lot of horror books this year, and I think only maybe 2 of them have been by Stephen King, so I'm assuming that I've hit that goal, and if I haven't hit it, I will definitely hit it in October when I'm going to read all of the spooky things ever. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that one. And the final goal was to read at least 10 books by authors that I love. I'm really bad at, when I enjoy a book by an author, picking up another book by that author. I'll usually add it to my TBR, but then I forget about it, which doesn't really make sense because I should read those books because I'm probably more likely to love them. I've gotten a bit better at this. Again, this is a goal I haven't necessarily tracked that well, but I've been reading a lot of Christina Henry. I think I've read almost all of her books now, apart from Red Queen, and I'm going to reread Alice and Red Queen probably before the end of the year. I recently read Full Throttle by Joe Hill, which I really loved. I had an arc of that, and Joe Hill, again, is another author that I've read a book by him, and I was putting off reading another one by him. So yeah, I don't think I've hit 10, I don't think I'm close to hitting 10, but I feel like I am reading, I'm making more of an effort than I usually make, and also I am doing more rereads, which is good because it means I'm reading more books by those authors that I do love, which is quite nice. So yeah, so that's kind of my statistical overview for the last 4 months. For the last 4 months of this year, I am going to only do a readathon in September, I think. I'm going to try to avoid readathons in October, November and December. It's going to be quite tricky for me because I do enjoy doing readathons and there are some good ones coming up. I will probably make a few exceptions, but I really want to focus on clearing my TBR, getting books read that I have been putting off reading, and just kind of focusing on my end of year goals without getting distracted by fun things like readathons and all that. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I suspect I will still take part in readathons, particularly there's the Christmas one that I don't remember the name of, but I took part in last year that I really enjoyed. There's a fantasy one in fall that I really enjoy, and there's bound to be spooky ones, but yeah, I just need to prioritise my goals. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. It helps me out massively. Let me know how your goals are going. Let me know if you've got anything similar, if you're doing well. I hope you are. And if you have any tips on how I can better achieve my goals, that is also useful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.